Welcome to Bloom Today. We have a providential show for you. We're going to be talking about how God is our provider.
Hi, I'm Paula Wallace, president of Bloom in the Dark, and this is
Ginny Priz, the single-handed serenity coach. Welcome to Bloom Today, where we talk about internal and external brokenness and how you can heal,
so that you can use the fertilizer of your past to bloom today. Hey everybody, today we're talking about how God is my provider. I don't know, Jenny, is he your provider too?
He's my provider, so he can't be your provider.
No, he's my provider.
He's my provider. Okay, that's a lesson I don't always remember, though, that he is my provider.
Today, specifically, he's your provider.
Right, well, and tomorrow he will be my provider today, and the next day he will be my provider that day as well. Yeah, one day at a time.
But it's funny how hard that can be to understand. We talk about Jehovah Jireh, God is my provider. We all theoretically know it. But what happens when I have to make a choice today about providing for myself or looking to God to be my provider?
Mm-hmm. Well, we want to do everything ourselves. And we believe that we have to. It's so easy when we are walking with, our eyes and our hands, however many you may have, that you have to provide and create and make sure that everything is in its place. And you're the only one who's going to be responsible for you. Or at least that's the message that I know I got growing up. And of course, I'm single and need to provide for myself, not for a family, but I don't have anyone else who's going to be providing for me. So it's all on my shoulders, or at least sometimes that's how it feels.
Well, stop and think about it being the American dream.
Right.
So from the proper financial training on how to be a good steward, which is a good thing in that God says to be a good steward. Mm-hmm. But we have a tendency, or I have had a tendency to take that way too far and say, oh yeah, God is the one who provides if I do everything myself.
Right.
God
helps those that help themselves. Which is not in the Bible. This is not a biblical thing, but it is something that
people say.
Yeah, people do say. Christians have said for a while. And I know for me it was definitely this idea of responsibility and being responsible with your money and being responsible with having the job and having all of your ducks in a row
And retirement.
Oh, you need to have that nest egg because you don't want to work your whole life, or you don't want to be 80 and still packing groceries, or you want to have that nice, quiet end of life season. So I need to work really hard now so that I can rest later and again, making sure that I'm doing it. And that's kind of the culture that I grew up with. So it was really, really difficult for me when I started my own business a few years ago. And I didn't have all of my ducks in a row at all.
And you were starting to learn.
Yes, and had to use my own savings. I mean, I had so many ducks in a row for so long, made sure that they were there, that now I had to do something a little bit that felt irresponsible, but I felt that God was actually really calling me to, that he really wanted me to step out and do this in faith. And he did tell me, I paid you in advance a little bit, so go ahead and use that money. But it was torture for me to do that. And I'm not even exaggerating. I wish that I was, but it was torture for me to hand it over, to use that, because it had been so trained in me to hold on to that and keep that for later.
Well, we think of it as our security.
Right.
I grew up with nothing on the mission field and then grew up in a small trailer in South Georgia, and 6 of us kids, and my dad was making minimum wage part of the time. Like, we're talking about no money, no nothing. And so then when I started having money and having a company and a job and being able to bring in the money and pay off bills and be financially responsible, everything looks beautiful until God says, oh, by the way, I've called you to ministry, and I don't want you doing ministry and the job and be a single mom of 3 boys. Yeah. I want you with no distractions doing ministry full time, which when you're only getting a very small amount of child support means there's no money coming in, and you're supposed to be responsible. And I've done that. I've had the job, full-time job plus 5 part-time gigs on the side, make sure I could take care of myself and take care of the kids. So I know what it takes. But God said, I want you to trust me. I want you to do ministry full time, and I want you to trust me. And I had such a hard time with it until God started showing me that it was like foreign missions, a foreign missionary. Right? So you expect to support yourself in the foreign country and pay for the ministry work you're doing. And you look to God to provide for that. Like, most people understand that makes sense.
Right. There's a fundraising aspect to it.
You travel around and speak, get people to give you money, you take offerings, you do fundraising, whatever it takes to then support that. But what does it look like when you live in Franklin, Tennessee?
Which is an affluent area. Very
affluent area, and you're the single mom with nothing living in this area, and then saying, oh yeah, by the way, God's my provider. No, I don't know where we're getting food. I don't know where we're getting rent. I don't know where the electricity is coming from. Oh yeah, and I don't know where the ministry money is coming from either.
Right, and that is an everyday reality in third world countries, in poorer areas, and so they're used to that kind of response in those areas, but not when it's seeming as if there are opportunities everywhere to make money. But when God is calling you to not work in a job, but to work ministry full time, that looks very different from the outside.
It does, and I've been told I'm irresponsible, that I am lazy, that I'm not doing the right thing. I'm not following the American dream, and I'm not monetizing the ministry stuff or the book or the TV show or all these things the way we should be, because that makes other people feel better because they don't want to look at God as the ultimate provider and obey Him. It says you can't serve God and money, right? But what do we do in our choices every day when we're not looking to God as our provider? We tend to make money the reason we make the decisions. Oh, well, I can't do that because I don't have the money. Oh, I've got to do this because it's going to make the money.
Right. And our decisions are based on how much money I may or may not have, or how much money I know is coming in, instead of, God, what is it that you want me to do?
Right. And so in discussing this, we've talked about how everyone can trust God as their provider by owning 3 really basic truths.
Absolutely. The first one being that God is the only provider.
Right. So while I thought I was earning the money myself and I thought I had the career and the job, God was still my provider even through that.
Yes.
It wasn't me. And it's pride to think that it was. Because whether it's my mind that He gave me, the body He gave me capable of working, whether it was the connections, the doors He opened for me to have the job, He was still the provider.
He still connected the dots. He still gave you the skills that you had. He still made the opportunity available, opened the door. You just had to step through it. Not always easy to step through it when you're working. I know that's feel really stressful, but whether we stress or not, God is going to provide exactly what He wants to provide for us. And if we are not looking at our hands and making sure that we're the ones doing it, we're the ones striving, we're the ones going, then we can rest further in Him.
Right. And so in Hebrews 13:21, he says, may He equip you with everything good for doing His will, and may He work in us what is pleasing to Him through Jesus Christ. He gives us exactly what we need to do what He's called us to do. Now, if we're running off in a different direction, we might be like going one way when His provision
goes another
is a different way. So sometimes we do have to course correct to be in line with His provision.
Absolutely.
But sometimes what He really wants for us and the value may be more eternal and less temporal, less tangible here on earth, but He does say He will always provide.
Yes, He will. He will always provide.
No matter what.
Not necessarily. What He doesn't say is, I will always allow you a way to provide for yourself.
No.
He will provide.
And even when you can't see how.
Yeah.
So when I look back over the last several years, a lot of it, I can't tell you how all the pieces fit. Though there is the funny story of somebody showing up at our door at 10:30 at night with half a box of Dunkin' Donuts. Do you know how excited my kids were?
Oh, I'm sure. Yes.
10:30 at night, knock on our door, and it's half a box of Dunkin' Donuts. So I asked my kids, have y'all been praying for donuts? Because evidently God thought you needed them.
Just a special treat for you.
It was really special, but it was Him showing that He was providing.
Yeah.
Regardless.
And not just the practical stuff, but also because things. I know he has provided you with some really good, nutritious, amazing food. But at the same time, He also takes care of what you want as well with the donuts and the specialty things.
Yeah, He provided filet mignon. Yes. I introduced my kids to filet mignon because it came in the food boxes.
I love it.
Isn't that just crazy?
That is awesome.
It's like, He likes good meat too, evidently. And that doesn't mean that's what it always is, but it's been fun and interesting to see kind of little cool things that he does when he's providing.
He says he's going to take care of the birds of the air, right? They do not sow or reap or store away in barns. They don't have their 401k socked away somewhere. And yet your heavenly Father feeds them. Are you not much more valuable than they? I mean,
yes.
Apparently we are, which is cool. But but if he's going to take care of them every day, everything that they need, then he's at least with as far as shelter and food and helping them to survive. He's absolutely having more thoughts about us, taking care of us, and providing what we need.
Right, and he then asks us to trust him even when we don't think we can believe. When we not only don't see how, but we are even beyond that, whether it's fear or confusion or helplessness or whatever it is. And he says to trust him no matter what. In Matthew 6:31 and 33, he actually talks about taking no thought. Well, what should we eat, or what should we drink, or what should we wear? He says not to even think about that. And yesterday coming out of church, it was funny because someone's like, oh, that's a cute outfit. And I stopped and said, oh, thank you. Yeah, the shirt got given to me, the boots got given to me, the jeans got given to me, everything I have on, including the jewelry, was given to me in one form or another because God had provided, but I couldn't tell you how he was going to do it. And in fact, he took away and closed all the doors, so I had no other options. So I could live in fear, or I could...
That he was the one closing doors and not providing for you anymore.
Right, and then still needing him to provide because I had no other options.
Right.
Or I could start not taking thought, not thinking about and worrying about tomorrow, and starting to just say, you know what, I have no idea.
Right.
I don't know how he's going to do it, but I'm going to trust him anyway.
And I've been walking with you long enough to know that when he closes the door, it's not because he's closing the door of provision for you. He's just closing maybe that opportunity and opening a door for someone else to step in and to, it says we're more blessed to give than to receive. And so he's opening the door of blessing, not just
he's
for
been
you,
blessing a lot of other people.
But other people as well.
So they're giving to me. They're hopefully getting lots of opportunities for blessing.
Absolutely.
But it is humbling.
Absolutely.
To walk that kind of path of trusting him and not having the answers and not being able to claim the pride thing of this was mine, I did this.
And you're not just trusting God with yourself and your life. You're trusting God with the lives of your children as well.
3 of them, yeah.
And he has provided every step of the way. And that is not easy, but you walk it better than anyone I've ever seen. And I may have never, ever seen anyone walk that path. Just say, okay, God, if that's what you tell me to do, to be obedient in that way is incredible.
But I started my life that way. On the mission field with nothing, with my parents.
Trained you for it
trusting
early.
God, yeah. So he's had me on this path of learning to walk this way for a really long time. But it's still hard when fear tries to come at you and when common sense and when all the proper American dream thinking and planning comes into play.
Right.
It's a choice to say, God, I trust you, and to take those lies that say I have to make it happen and put them aside and focus on the calling he has. And then the provision comes from wherever he chooses to send it from.
Absolutely.
But I just have to be in line with what he's telling me. But that's not just true of me in ministry full time. That's true of everybody, whether it's in their job or it's in starting a business or it's in whatever God's called them to. It's God's still the provider.
Absolutely. And if you want to learn more about this, we have a coaching tool online. So you can go to our website, which is bloomtodaytv.com, and download the tool. It's more about this lesson and also some questions to help you apply it to your life, and then an exercise where you can take some baby steps to help walk further in faith that God is your provider.
And we have a cool guest.
We have a really cool guest that I am excited for. He is a Jamaican American and world champion of Toastmasters.
That's hard to do. 20,000 plus people compete for that. That is so huge. But he's my friend, and his wife is an amazing and beautiful friend of mine as well. And I'm excited. We get to have
Mark
Brown.
Woo!
Come on, can you give him a hand, Ginny?
I absolutely can. Mark, here's your hand.
Oh, thank you. You're coming very handy, right?
Yes,
I'm
absolutely.
sorry. Thank you so much. Good to see you, Ginny.
Come take a seat.
Good to see you again.
Hey. Joining us in our kitchen?
Yes, I see that. It's great. I will not go get any knives or attack anybody. I'm going to be a good boy today.
I appreciate that.